You come in and you think the game's slow because you've now been a senior and you've been big dog on the porch, and now all of a sudden you're with a bunch of other big dogs, and now all of a sudden your bark isn't so big.
Okay, I want to say good evening. A little bit tardy here tonight. That's my fault. We had some exciting news today within our family with regard to not only my grandson, but my youngest son, Tyler. We'll get to that a little bit later. I want to say welcome to every single member of YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Want to say that tonight I'm honored because this is a gentleman that I feel exudes not only energy, high octane energy, but he is the epitome of what a college coach should be in every single facet of the job. Jay Uhlman is the head coach at Tulane University. Prior to that, spent a whole bunch of time out on the West Coast, has been an assistant coach, recruiting coordinator at Tulane, and now steps into the big boy shoes as the head coach. Welcome aboard, Jay. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me. And first and foremost, congratulations to you and the family. That's exciting news. So thanks for sharing that.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. And tonight we're going to do something a little bit different. This is the Coach's Corner segment on the YouTube channel, sponsored by the Baseball Blue Book. Each and every week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, myself, Eric Wubna from the Baseball Blue Book, will talk college recruiting, and we'll talk college baseball with college coaches from all across the country. So if you have a question, I know a couple people have already sent in their questions for Coach Uhlman, and I'm going to get to that. And the first thing I want to say or ask, Jay, is how you liking the big boy chair there and the captain's seat at the office at Tulane?
Yeah, it's been amazing. You know, it's been a culmination of a lot of years, just keeping my head down and plugging away to get an opportunity to be the head coach and affect change the way I feel like I think is most effective, and that's certainly with the staff, and which filters down to the players and everything that we do within the program. So being able to kind of touch it all is really exciting for me, and to be able to put my stamp individually on it. But again, it's the greater good. It's the whole that makes it special, and it's a special place here, tradition-rich history, and just really proud to be able to do this and be in this chair. A lot of people have come before us that have set us up for success, and we're planning on not dropping that ball and keeping this thing rolling and making people proud.
Well, I want to let everyone know that for point of reference and for full disclosure, I lived in New Orleans for 7 years. It was kind of a in-between city for me while my sons were going to schools in Eunice, Louisiana, Alexandria, Louisiana, as well as Nashville, Tennessee. So I have sat at Tulane Stadium, Turchin Stadium, many, many times with Rick Scott, David Pierce, Juice, Travis Jewett. I'm looking forward to doing the same thing with Coach Uhlman. And so tonight I really want to take the time because of all the boatload of questions that have come in. And I want to make sure that you understand. I have an affinity for Tulane. I have no coaching relationship there. Neither of my sons attended there. But from a city standpoint, from a family standpoint, with the caliber of people that I got to meet and consider to be lifelong friends, the university is high academic, high athletic. And I often tell people Tulane University is one of only a handful of baseball schools that actually generates a profit, meaning they're actually getting fans. They sell out games all year long at their stadium. And if you haven't been to Tulane to see their facilities and their amenities, it is well worth the trip if you ever find yourself in New Orleans. And so on that note, I probably, Jay, every time I have you on, whether it was last year on a couple of Twitter spaces, I get a litany of questions that come in before because everybody's super excited. And the first question that has come in is one of the things is, what do you feel now that you're a head coach? What's the biggest challenge that an incoming freshman finds himself in during the fall season as far as implementing and immersing themselves into the Tulane baseball program?
Yeah, and I think it's across the board, no matter where you go. It's a great question. No matter where you go, I think there's always going to be a learning curve. 2 steps backwards, one step forward kind of situation. You're most times moving to a new environment. You're getting in an academic situation that you're unaware of. School is school and baseball is baseball, but when you're used to a certain routine where you're coming from, and now you're immersed in a new routine, in a new place, in a new city, in a new academic, rigorous environment, that's challenging. Young men are doing their own laundry and trying to figure out where they're going to eat. And, they don't have mom and dad harping on them. It's them and their roommate, and so there are a lot of transitional things that go on, that is particularly the first either quarter or semester, whatever the case may be, with young men that come into programs. It's extremely difficult to navigate those things, and then that's not even including the baseball and weightlifting experience. You come in and you think the game's slow because you've now been a senior and you've been, the big dog on the porch. And now all of a sudden you're with a bunch of other big dogs. And now all of a sudden your bark isn't so big. And now the terminology or the language of the program seems at times foreign. It's all the same things. It's just presented differently and coached differently and motivated differently. And the speed is different because there are things that are being asked and required of you that you thought you were ready for, but almost inevitably not ready for it. And that speed takes time to catch up with. We've had exit interviews all week. We've got a handful of them tomorrow, which will wrap up our fall session. And a lot of our freshmen, I asked them to self-evaluate, come into your meeting. I'm not going to talk at you. I want you to describe to me your fall, what you did well, what you didn't do well, what you want to do better, what your plan is. How did school go? How was the weight room experience for you? So I asked them to do those things for self-reflection and evaluation. And, credit to our young men, which is also credit to their families, which is important in recruiting as well. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but their ability to articulate their falls as freshmen was pretty dang spot on. We're not done with all of them, but very proud of their self-reflection and their evaluations of kind of what they did and where they're at. And so that part to me was really a good sign of health in our program moving forward. But, you love them up, you recruit them. It's not my recruiting face and then it's my coaching face. You try to be authentic, or at least I do. Try to be as authentic as I can. But certainly when you get on the field, there's an expectation and a standard and a demand that you have to hold people accountable to, and also allow for some flexibility and, ability to fail without just totally ramming it down their throats. And some young men are more able to handle those things quicker than others. And so some kind of get the purse string tightened a little longer than others. And that's just kind of a basis of how they're acclimating to those situations. But very difficult for freshmen to come into any program in the country and play and start right away. There's generally a process to those things. So patience is certainly a virtue when it comes to being a freshman. You got to keep plugging away and get acclimated. And certainly if you have the ability to show up for a summer school program prior to school starting as incoming freshmen, you guys have played enough. I think you're not going to get a leg up necessarily by going out and playing in another league in the summer, where you could come in here and get 6 credits, start living in the dorms, get with your new roommate, learn the campus, the city. Being for lack of a better description, a dumbed down version of school where, there's not 10,000 people on campus all navigating it together. And now you've been through those kinds of things to where that acclimation period is certainly smoother. You've done the weightlifting for a month and a half. You've done the conditioning. So none of that is new when all the returners show up, and now it's weights and conditioning and skill hours and class and food. And they're at least they're not standing at the starting line when the gun goes off, whereas the upperclassmen and the veterans, they're all down. They're like a lap ahead or 2 laps ahead. And, the ability to be able to kind of shorten that curve for those young men is, in my opinion, is really, really valuable. And the years that I've been doing it, when we've had our young men do that first, the acclimation period has been a lot shorter.
Well, as usual, as soon as you join us, we get like 30 questions that flood in here. So I'm going to paraphrase and put a bunch of them together. So parents, I see your instant messages on Twitter. I'm going to kind of collect them all and ask them all kind of in a group setting. The first question that really a parent is asking you with regard to pitching, and I kind of discuss this when I try to work with families. Can you explain to parents of high school student athletes in particular how truly challenging the transition is from not only high school, but travel baseball as well, into a major Division I university? I mean, almost every hitter has skills that are advanced. And so it's not so easy to make that jump from a freshman, as a freshman in college, from high school or travel ball. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the prep athlete or pitcher in this case, since that's a specific point here, pitchers are wading through, in a good team, maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 really good hitters that are going to really challenge them. And, 5, 6, 7, in some cases, 8 hitters that are never going to play past high school, where the pitchers can just a real quality, talented arm is just going to overwhelm guys with pure stuff, and get swing and miss out of the zone that a qualified and quality Division I hitter or college hitter or pro guy is going to be able, for the most part, to lay off. You're going to have to get in the zone more frequent against guys that are good hitters and that have a plan and have had 600 at bats under their belt. And so there definitely is the learning curve there. And then when the pitchers realize, like, oh man, like there's no rest for the weary here. I got one guy out, now I got to go get this guy out. And, they're going through the lineup, and it's exhausting mentally and physically, because a lot of times those guys feel like they've got to pitch perfect to get outs. And they don't understand that, the moral of the story in pitching is get outs. Don't care how you get them, and get them as fast as you can. If it's a strikeout, great. But I think they have a challenging time figuring it out. And then when they get life punches them in the face and guys start hitting them, and they're walking guys because they're used to getting the high school strike zone that's line to line. And now all of a sudden there's actually 18 inches that are being called a strike. The zone shrinks on them, and now becomes a more fine pitchability, and guys, they nibble and they don't get calls. And so it becomes more difficult for them with having to be able to deal with that kind of failure. And, travel ball, there'll be teams that they run across that are pretty good top to bottom. But the amount of times they're facing those kinds of opponents, not near the amount that they're going to face, weekend and weekend out in whatever conference it is that they're in. So, I think the dedication to the weight room, the throwing program, the prehab, the post-hab, all the things, the core velocities and the bands, and marrying all that with all the new technology and TrackMan and those kinds of things, those are all critical pieces to helping them move their game forward. But it still comes down to mentality. And I think when guys have a lot of success for a long time, and then all of a sudden they stop having success, oftentimes most of the time it's not about their mechanics, but it ends up being about their mentality. They've lost a little bit of confidence. They've lost a little bit of edge, and they give too much credit to hitters. And I got news for pitchers. It's difficult to hit round ball, round bat. And, you've got different planes and speeds. And so we've got a lot of things that we've got to account for when we're going up against a pitcher. So, I think that the natural progression is, you're going to suffer some setbacks in this game, and the ability to siphon through all those things and stay competitive and stay convicted. And, stay with your routine, because when it goes bad, all you've got really is your routine to try to get you back on track. And I think it's valuable to go through those kinds of things, because without your failure and without your process of how you went through failure, and without your routine and developing a routine, you're just kind of out there doing, and this game requires full mental capacity, full conviction, full focus and concentration. And the times you're not is the time you leave the ball over the plate, or the ball's hit to you, or you're, strike three looking, or those odds go up greatly when you're not in that good space mentally. So, you just got to keep plugging away, young pitchers.
Okay, so a couple of quick questions. Are you active on social media? Are you watching videos that players are hashtagging Tulane or Coach Uhlman? Are you watching these videos? How active are you and your staff with regard to social media?
Yeah, we're extremely active on the social media piece. I just think it's another tool for us to be able to engage, whether it's through the allowable recruiting, or it's just to kind of identify guys, and depending on where we are in a certain cycle, we may be past a certain group, at least on the pause button, but maybe we're into the younger group, and maybe we're not dying to, try to get, quote unquote, married to, a freshman or a sophomore, but we want to be engaged in what they're doing and know who they are, and start collecting intel, family, what they do for a living. Can they pay? At Tulane, it's expensive. So can you pay? Can you pass? And, and can you play? And so we're trying to identify all those qualities. And of course, we want a specific type of people and family and personalities. And we like diverse personalities. You don't have to just be one way necessarily, but, we're trying to gather all that information through what's provided out there, either by the player, recruit, or student athlete, or by the families that provide that kind of information too. So, I think as long as you're out there representing yourself, in a professional manner, I don't think there's any harm in doing those things. I think the more video that we can see, and like I said, we're extremely active on that. We share it in our coaching group thread, like, hey, check this guy out. Got some video on this guy. I don't know anything about him. Anybody seen him? Can we follow up on this guy? Can you call Walter? Can you call so-and-so? And so the building the information packages on those types of players is critical for us, because we want to try to have as much information as we can, just like we tell recruits, get as much information as you can about our program, our institution, our city, our coaching staff, players that we've had, developmental history, all those things, because you're going to need to make a decision that's going to affect your life, and you need to make the most well-informed decision that you can make. And it doesn't mean it's always going to be right, but it's going to give you the best chance. And then you trust that gut instinct, and you jump and you go for it. So yeah, we're way active on social media, and it's a great, valuable resource.
Well, we want to make sure you get your profile. All your staff members have to get onto the Blue Book. It's an app. Just go down and download it. It's all baseball, all videos, all kind of context. The baseball Blue Book, been around for 130 years.
Yes, it has.
Now, I have a question that probably about 6 families have asked me, and I'm going to ask it for Ray, specifically from New Jersey. Coach, what are your thoughts on showcases versus Tulane camps? And I want to kind of add to this.
Yes.
If you're going to a Tulane camp, you're going to see some tremendous amenities. The Hack Shack. I mean, it's quite the setup at Tulane. I would venture to say it's a top 10 as far as facilities and amenities, weight room, etc. But how do you feel with regard to going as a staff to a showcase versus having people come onto campus at Tulane?
Well, first of all, thanks for the kind words about the amenities and the facilities. I mean, we're very proud of them. They're worthy of all of those kinds of praises. So thank you. Showcases, tournaments, perfect game, PBR, all of those things serve a good purpose. We really try to do a really good job with camp. not just stand around the cage or just stand there with a clipboard. Like, we really try to engage the young men that come to our camp. You know, we signed, now again, this wasn't just like, hey, this is the first time we saw you, let's recruit you and get you committed. It's laying the groundwork, it's building the relationships, and then inviting these young men to come to camp too. But our last camp, 11 guys that participated in camp were either committed or became committed shortly after our camp. So it's not for us, it's not about trying to gouge anybody. And I don't think the vast majority of people are not trying to, in the college deal, trying to gouge people for the most part. They're trying to provide an opportunity for families and young men to come to campus, particularly those that legally aren't allowed to come yet and sit with us and be with us and tour facilities. You can come and hang out with us if you're a freshman, a sophomore. You can come get coached by us and see how we interact with you and other players, and you get a feel for whether that's authentic and real or it's phony. I mean, that's for you to decide. Do you like how we coach, how engaged we are or aren't? You know, we tend to be hands-on. I mean, I think I shot a Ponza for all the infielders during, the typical pro style workout, but we don't try to do just the typical pro style workout. I don't get a bunch out of just 6 grounders. Like, I want to engage with them and encourage them and challenge them and take them to their left and take them to the right and do the slow roller. And hey, let's turn double plays. Let me see you turn it, and let's do it a lot. Like, let's take a 30-minute segment and make it all infield. And let's take the outfield and do all of those kinds of things. And so we try to really do a good job that way of providing what, if we were playing in that environment, when we left, would we feel good about our opportunity? Would we walk out and say, man, I really got a lot of opportunities. I got a lot of swings, a lot of grounders and fly balls and throws to second and throws to third and fielding bunts. And I felt like I got my money's worth and then some. And I also felt I got a feeling for the types of people these guys are, how approachable they are, how their coaching styles. And then you get to decide if you like that. And then you get to look around the campus and the city, and you get to stay there and decide if you like that too, because you can like coaches and you can, and then our players are involved. So you can interact with our players, and that's going to be important because those are going to be the people you spend the most time with. You know, do our players engage you? Do they care? Are they helping you? Just those kind of things. Do they answer your questions? And so that representation of the institution and the program are critical, because you, as I was saying, you could like all of those kinds of things and just like that specific thing, but maybe you tour our campus and you don't like our campus and you don't like the city of New Orleans. Those are things that you need to know before you sign up for this. Again, I always say this, and I've said this for as long as I can remember, is, sometimes you want something, I wanted to play for the Dodgers. They didn't draft me. Those things, wanting and getting are two different things. And so your ability to decipher all the information available to you and use your eyes and the sights and the sounds and the smells and decide if that's for you. And then you have a pretty good idea and a feeling like, okay, I could say yes to this place if they offered, or I didn't really have this place on my radar, but now here we are. This is a great opportunity. So I think the camps on campus, for us, really valuable, really, and we're all there and we're all engaged and we're all doing that. So really important for us.
Well, I want to answer 2 questions real quickly because I've seen them come in. First of all, the airport at New Orleans to the Tulane campus at worst is a 20 to 30 minute drive, and that's if there's traffic. And the other thing is the campus area. I will tell you this, it's probably one of the most beautiful areas of the country. Yep. With regard to the trolleys, St. Charles Street, the yep. restaurants. Yep. Absolutely a first-class city for those people that have asked about New Orleans as a whole. Is Bourbon Street nearby, probably within a 5-mile walk. But, Tulane campus is in a really, really attractive part of Louisiana. And if you've never been to Louisiana, you're going to love 2 things, the people and the food, over and above the baseball. So I want to make that clear because I have a lot of those questions. So, Coach, I want to ask you a couple questions that have come in. Recruiting services, do you use them? do you use a network more than do you use a network of people that you trust, or do you rely on recruiting services in any capacity?
Boots on the ground, people and relationships over all else. Our world, our game, is built on those things. It's been the test of time. So always people first and foremost, and you build relationships with people, and people don't always get it right. You're gonna like players, you're gonna swing and miss on some things from time to time, and but I think filtering through people and services, that takes time, and it takes diligence, it takes care, and then you develop that trust. And once the trust is established, you're able to overcome some swings and misses and so forth. But yeah, it's going to be phone calls to the high school coach, the junior college coach. We'll obviously the travel, you're not getting away from the travel thing, or the guys that work at Perfect Game or PBR or any of the entities out there that are promoting players, which that's all great. Promoting our sport, the more we can get people out there, the more options that people have. And, people without a real budget can reach audiences that they may not reach in any other capacity. So, it's always going to be about gathering, a bunch of information to kind of put it all together, and not just, hey, it's one guy's word. And let's cross-check that, not out of disrespect, but it's no different if you went to a doctor and they told you had a cancer. You have a choice. You can either just believe that doctor, or you can go get a second, a third, and a fourth opinion and put it all together and see what happens. So if the opinions all start coming back and everybody's singing the same tune, you can feel pretty good about that young man and his family moving forward. It's where you start getting, two guys over here really selling and two guys over here going, not really sure, man, you better check on this, or mom and dad are pretty involved. And so now, what does pretty involved mean? Like, we're all parents, so it's like we all love our kids, we want the best for our kids. Right. So there's different levels of involvement. So that requires another dive off the deep end to figure out, okay, what exactly does that mean? Now you got another guy over here saying this kid's not real. He's not a real kid. He's a bad kid. But you've got these other two that aren't saying the same thing. So, you go, well, let me make my own decision on that. If one guy's saying he's a bad kid, well, why? What happened? Was it I went to a different travel team. I went to a different hitting coach, a pitching coach, there's a reason for that, so you got to find out the reasons and really dig in there. So all of those things are valuable to us. This is what I would say. I'm less inclined to deeply follow up on kind of the stock email or the stock letter that I've seen over and over for 26 years, that I know what's going on with that. You give it its due, and then either you move on, or a name goes, oh yeah, I know who that kid is, so like, I'm good. So yes, we use all those kinds of entities, people, services.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about your out of conference schedule? I think Tulane is in a unique part of the country because you play an extremely challenging conference with Eastern Carolina and Houston and South Florida, Wichita State. But talk a little bit about that grind in your out of conference, because there's a few big boy names that you guys play year in and year out. And I think families really have to understand there's really no layups in college baseball.
Yeah, I was actually talking about this today. I think you can take two teams and switch uniforms and go through the league and switch uniforms, and I don't think you wouldn't be able to tell a whole lot of difference, I don't think. So talent across the board, and as the draft has shrunk, more talent's reaching campus. So there's a little more parity that way, and more people are working at it. You're getting quality coaches that are investing, and the pay is higher, and so the everything ratchets up that way. But our out of conference schedule philosophy is kind of simply this. We have just within our locker room, we've got 20 kids from 20 different states. And we have this year, we have a 40-man roster. We've got 5 extra exemptions still from COVID, which go away after this year. But again, half of our clubhouse is from a different state than Louisiana. So my mission when I was able to be named head coach was, okay, how do I represent that in our schedule within our clubhouse? And so I went out and I wanted to play a more eclectic schedule. I wanted to get out west. I wanted to spread the RPI puzzle, go away, because you get more credit for away games than you do home games. And so the other part about that is I want our players to have a great experience that way. I want them to experience places they may never go again. You take a kid from a small city, a small town in Louisiana, and he may never get to a state like Hawaii. We're going to play at Hawaii. We're going to play at UC Irvine. We're going to play in midweek against Cal State Fullerton. We're going to play in the Dodgertown Classic Friday against UCLA, Saturday at USC, Sunday in Dodger Stadium against Sacramento State, and then finish our non-conference slate at the University of Hawaii. And 25, 24, 26, 27 all look very familiar that way. And that's all by design. I wanted to give them that opportunity. I wanted to spread the RPI puzzle out. I wanted to our schedule to represent our clubhouse and our alumni, because our alumni are all over the place. We just had an alumni game for the first time in 7 years a couple weeks ago. And we had 85 guys show up. Wow. And they came from everywhere, West Coast, South, East, North. So that was really cool. And so for us to be able to take our product and their alma mater and move it closer to them it's important to me, and it matters. Tradition matters, and the ability to keep our former players connected, and even those that didn't play baseball but support Tulane and went to Tulane, they can, if we're close enough, they can come see us. So I wanted to get us more out of the area, and again represent more of what our clubhouse looks like within our schedule.
I want to just make sure the parent, Bill, as Coach Uhlman just alluded to, I believe he said 20 states are represented within the clubhouse. And so that should speak to the recruiting area, not just in the Southeast, in the Louisiana, Mississippi. There's people from the West Coast, people from the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, et cetera. The number one thing you have to understand about Tulane, it is in the same class as a Vanderbilt, Stanford, Duke, UVA. You're talking about upper echelon academic, top 25 academic university in the country. You're talking about a top 25, top 30 baseball program. So these are the types of things that you have to understand. They're going to always go outside the state of Louisiana or Mississippi. They knock up against guys wanting to go to Mississippi State, Ole Miss, LSU, those bigger schools in that Southeast area. But regardless where you are across the country, Coach, I'm not trying to speak for you, but if you're a talented student athlete, and again, you can pass academically, you can play athletically, you're going to get on their radar, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And pay, it's $83,000 today to come to school here if you got no, financial help from either us or the school. And so that's a big bill. Not a lot of people can afford that. And so your pond within your backyard goes from, this to this. And so you have to be able to get creative. We've got some in-state opportunities. The legislative scholarship's been a valuable tool for us for in-state kids, and, has, stretched our dollar further. But, we have to have families that understand the value of the education and what you're getting for what you pay. And we have to have that, and so again, not only does that shrink the pool, but then the talent that is good enough that we need, we're not just trying to recruit a guy just because he can pay to come here. I want him to get all the 3 Ps, and, the play part can be a little rough around the edges or more projection. But it can't just be the guy off the street that can afford it to come here and play. We're trying to compete for a national championship and get this thing back to Omaha. And so, very critical that we're able to have those components within the program.
I think it's important also for parents, not to digress too deeply, but I would like you, if you find your way to this video, I want you to understand, prior to Katrina, I think it would be easy to say that Tulane was arguably a top 5 team year in and year out. They were going to Omaha a couple times there. They had one of their best recruiting classes. Katrina kind of shook that whole thing up and created some rocking of the ship, for lack of a better term. But, Rick really did great things there. And then obviously under David and Travis, you've kind of carried that on. And now you take that torch and carry it forward. I'd like to finish with 2 questions, if I could, Jay. I want to be respectful of your time. The first one is, everybody's going to ask this question. I got to throw it out there to answer for folks that are joining us. Priority with regard to your recruiting. Is it portal, JUCO, post-grad, high school, or is it the best guys you recruit, the best guys regardless of how you get them?
Yeah, I think we certainly want to get the best players. I mean, that's the mission, because it is the Johnnies and the Joes. It's not the X's and the O's, right? It's always people over.
I like that.
It is. It's people over policy. It's people over, a system. And so you got to get really good players. So we're always trying to get the best players, that we can. And I like the high school kid because you're able to have him for an extended amount of time. And the short-sighted part of that is that they're not always, as I said in the very first part of this show, is you're gonna struggle with them early because they're trying to figure it out. Whereas your portal guy, your grad guy, your JUCO transfer, at least they've played college baseball and they have that experience under their belt, so they're not overwhelmed by that. But regardless, the JUCO guy still's got a transition phase. I was a junior college player and transitioned to a Division I, so I'm acutely aware of the challenges of, going from one system to another, and you're still changing schools and cities and states. And so there's still all those kinds of things that come with going to a new place. So ideally for us, we're able to secure the lion's share of our recruits through high school means. And then we try to project out, whether guys, the attrition of what happens to guys, whether it's best that they leave or they decide they want to leave or they fail out of school or they get drafted, or they decommit, then you go to plan B, which is, okay, JUCO, okay, let's keep some in reserve for the portal. Cause we know now, 3,000 kids, 4,000, I don't even know. It was a lot. Of kids in the portal, and a lot of them don't end up landing on their feet, and so again, there's a reason sometimes you're in the portal, and now there's some games that go on in the portal, and in terms of leveraging certain things and draft and needing a fallback position if the draft doesn't work. So you're still recruiting in the portal and you're recruiting the high caliber guy who's draft eligible, but you still got to recruit under him because he's using you to get the draft, and not necessarily using you, but it's just the game that we play. So you've got to do your due diligence with kind of the temperature of the players, the temperature of the recruits, and then try to plug and fill and play with, the JUCO, the portal, and the grad transfer. So, I think you've got to have a healthy balance of all those things. Those young guys need older guys too, to figure out how to play this game and go about their business and what it means to work. Because, the high school guys, they think working's going to play 4 games in a tournament and holding up a trophy and getting a ring and go to hit at the facility for, 20 or 30 minutes a day and lift weights a couple times a week. But that's a whole different ballgame when you continue to move up the ladder. It takes more than just what you were doing. Otherwise, it's just going to be the same results and maybe even worse results. So, we need those older guys to be able to help those young guys navigate and teach them what it's like to be professional and be a college baseball player.
So I'm going to kind of go rogue on you here because I know that this is something that you'll answer directly, and I respect your opinion on this. Social media, I talk to so many parents, and I would love if you could just look directly into that camera, tell every single student, athlete, and parent, you're an incoming high school senior, you're going to be a freshman in college. Fall baseball, give them an idea of what they need to be doing now, not in the summer before they come to college, but right now. give them an idea. How can they begin to separate themselves and truly prepare to be a college athlete during their first freshman fall?
That's a doozy. I mean, it really is, because I don't know that you can truly have an understanding until your feet are actually on the ground doing it. I think it's easy to watch a college game or even go see a college practice, which I recommend. That would be one of the recommendations. If you have a college or a pro team in an area that's close to you, instead of spending your time doing some other recreational activity, spend the extra money to go watch those guys and then get there for batting practice. And by the way, that's 3 hours before the game when you play at home. And then it's a 3.5 hour game there. And it's probably another hour and a half by the time you're done with that. So they're 7-8 hour days, 4 and 5 times a week. So for you to be able to go out and watch those guys, what does a batting practice look like? Like, really evaluate it, really immerse yourself in what they're doing, not just going and saying you went, but watch infield, outfield, and watch how they prepare, watch how they stretch and play catch. And, and some do it better than others. And some naturally talented do get away with certain things. But I think the more you can see what it's like and feel what it's like, at least, you've got a grasp of the speed of things and what it kind of feels like and looks like from that standpoint. Certainly a separator is the weight room. You got to be in the weight room. You got to be strong. If you just look at a Major League Baseball game and look how physically gifted those guys are, and not just gifted, but a lot of those guys, all of them have worked hard to get the bodies that they have. And some of that is also grown man strength. Sometimes you're working hard, but it's just, you're putting on 15 pounds, you get in the season, you lose 10. It's like, dang, I did all this and then I lost it. And that's just, some of that's progression and the ability to eat right, because maybe you can't afford it or you don't have the time to do it right. Whereas they're professionals and that's what they're doing. And they've got cooks and nutritionalists and those kind of things. So, do as much strength and conditioning routine that you can, and flexibility and core stability and things that are going to improve your body. And then don't forget the mind. That's a muscle too. Trying to create your routines, create good habits, do one more instead of, yeah, I'm good. Give me one more. Let me have one more swing, one more ground ball. That wasn't good enough. One ground ball. Okay. Do one more, do 5 more, do 10 more. And the compound effect of that as you continue down the path is more reps. The guy who has more reps is going to be the more experienced guy, and he's going to have a better chance for longer success down the road. So again, creating those routines and those mentalities, and really, as stealing from the guru, rest his soul, Ken Ravizza, being prepared when you're on defense, get in your circle, 6 seconds, get out. That's the game, is a ebb and flow of 6 seconds. It's just, you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out. So do you train like that in the batting cage? Do you actually take rounds where you get out of the box, get a breath or get a sign, get back in, strap your deals like Garcia Parra used to do? I know some people probably don't know who that is because it's hard for youngins today to remember.
Okay.
Spirit, take your bat and pick out a letter and, develop those routines that you can go to, that you can control, because once the ball leaves your fingers or the ball leaves your bat, you got no control over it. If the umpire calls it a strike, guess what? It's a strike. If he calls you out, guess what? You're out. Like, the coach will argue if he thinks it's something else, but for the most part, those things are out of your control. So being able to funnel in and control the controllables is really big, and it's hard to do. But if you can just kind of chip away and start at some of those kinds of things, I think you're going to find success quicker, and you're going to find that when it's going bad or it's going fast, the pitcher's trying to quick pitch you, or it's the crowd's yelling at you, or mom and dad want you to get a big hit, or your grandma came to watch you for the first time. The person without a mental game, the external factors distract you. External factors distract anybody, professionals, acutely aware mental game people. we're human beings. That's a natural thing. But the ability to be able to, like, if somebody walked in this room right now and yelled in my ear, I would like to think I could still not skip a beat. They could yell right in my ear and I'd still be talking. I would have heard them because they yelled in my ear, but I'd have the discipline and the focus to be able to continue my thought, even though something else was going on. And those are the different things. Tiger Woods, he goes on a backswing and a camera goes off, or somebody yells, "You the man!" He steps back, right? And sometimes give the, like, "Come on, man, really?" But he has the presence instead of just immaturity, just going for it and then blaming what happened after the fact. He's got the maturity that beforehand he goes, "Okay, I got to stop this because I'm not ready to do what I need to do. Let me get out. Let me get back in." It's always before the fact, not after the fact. It's like I make a bad throw and the guy's out there going like this. That's like, I'm a coach going, I kill our guys when the one time they do it, like, really, we're not doing that. We're not doing this. Or we drop a ball and then the first thing you do is like put the glove up where the sun is and you got no glasses and just, those kinds of things. So be able to control what you can ahead of time.
I love that 6-second window. The 6-second circle. I could talk about that for days. We talked about Michael. We talked with Michael Kadire, and Cuddy was talking about when you watch a game, when you watch a major league game, you can see the field breathe in between every pitch. And I think that is something that is not taught, not discussed, or there's no engagement with younger student athletes. It's such a critical part of being a college and beyond caliber student athlete. So
Jeff. and I think if you don't mind, and I think some of that comes from the Too Cool environment too. I think you've got to have a special kind of mentality and a special kind of player maturity that you're not getting in my way. Like, I'm not too cool. I'm going to do it, like, because it's good for me. It's going to benefit me. Like, I'm not going to go too cool on it. That's really important. And I think we've all fallen victim to those kind of things. And that's part of the process. But the quicker you can get through I don't want to be ridiculed by my teammates, or the real guys can get through that. And I think, players ultimately respect those kinds of players that are able to take the ribbing but okay, this guy's really focused in, let's let him do his thing. And now it's not my about anymore. Now I can, kind of be out of my circle in a different kind of a space. So,
and I will tell you, as if you're a parent or student athlete that finds your way and you're really listening to what Coach Uhlman is saying, it's a separator. That's a sign of maturity. When you see a student athlete take accountability, of their at bat or in their moment, whether you're a pitcher, you step off, you collect yourself, you take a deep breath, it shows a certain level of maturation that you're able to kind of gather yourself and then get in the arena and compete. So I think that's a big part of becoming a college student athlete, regardless of the level. And so, again, I think we break records every time that you're on. And I want to make sure parents understand Coach Uhlman has already said that he is engaged with social media. So if you have a question, something you want to, fire him out an email. If you're of age, parent or student athlete, if you're a 2023, you have a specific question, go ahead. I just want to say thank you, Jay, because I know you have family, the wife. I know this is after practice and all your exit meetings, so I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
And I will be in New Orleans this particular spring, coming down with a few Tulane alumni, Glenn Formo. I don't know if you know Mike Riley, Stevie Riley, all those guys.
Yeah.
That goes back to the 83.
That's a good crew, Walt.
That's a great crew right there.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Johnny, I don't know if you got any of those guys in your mix, if you go into the College Inn or any of that stuff. But
yes, I am.
Everybody says thank you. Everybody, again, says happy holidays, Merry Christmas.
You guys too.
We're big fans. And, oh, by the way, when I do come down, I did send you a text on this. I'm looking for that powder blue Tulane BP jacket when I come down. So if you clear out the old locker room, there's any of those left over in the XL, grab me one. I want to remind everybody, again, we're sponsored by the Baseball Blue Book. 130 years old. It's a directory, all things, all people within the game of baseball. It's an app. It's free. It costs you nothing. You could be talking to Coach Uhlman and you could be putting a video out there. They can stumble across it. It's only baseball. No politics, no football, no soccer, none of that stuff. All baseball. So find your way to the Baseball Blue Book app. Every Tuesday, 9 p.m., we just do college recruiting. We talk travel baseball. We do it for free. We answer questions. If you have questions, we'll give you some answers, at least our opinions and thoughts. Every Thursday, we do Coach's Corner. Next week, we will have Eric Bakich, now head coach at Clemson University. So join us next week at 9 p.m. If you like what we're talking about, if you like the platform, please do me a favor. Please subscribe. Please like, please spread the word. Jay, I want to say thank you again. Merry Christmas to the whole family, and we'll see you at Turchin sometime in February and March.
I appreciate you, Walter. Thanks so much. And Merry Christmas.
All right, man. I'll talk with you.
Thank you.
You got it, Captain.